views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another conversation of Jamel Hardtman Unscripted, where we have conversations about things that matter with people who do, as guests share their deeply personal life stories full of inspiration and motivation. Please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notifications bell right now. Yeah, stop what you're doing. Just hit like and notifications bell. Alrighty, tonight's guest, as I previously described her, has her name forever etched in Olympic history. She's brilliant beyond Bermuda and the very definition of Black girl magic. She was born in Bermuda and raised in Toronto. Not only is she an Olympian, but she's now a public health professional, social justice warrior, and cupcake enthusiast. I wonder what her favorite kind is. An alumnus of both the University of Texas at Austin, I think they say hook 'em down there, and the George Washington University. She holds master's degrees in business and public health and works for the Bermuda Hospitals Board, managing the Bermuda National Cancer Registry. She's a member of the Bermuda Olympic Association and serves on many consultative boards, both locally and abroad, in the realms of public health, healthcare, and sport. It was in Athens, Greece, 2004, while representing Bermuda, she became the first Black woman from any nation to dive at the Olympic Games. My friends, please welcome Katura Horton-Perinchief to the show. Well. The crowd has showed up. They have showed up. They have shown up. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Excited to have you here. Very excited to have you here. So, first off, I say this to everyone: thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. It's not easy. Wanting to donate some of your time to someone like me. I know it's not easy, but I appreciate it.
Despite it being you, I'm really happy to be here.
Well, let's get right into it. So, as I stated just now, as I was giving people a short bio of you, you were born in Bermuda but raised in Toronto. What was that experience like?
I mean, I'm Bermudian. I'm Bermudian at heart, but I sound like this. And my parents were in school in Toronto. So while they were in school, I grew up there. And then because I had a diving career, my mother opted to stay throughout my childhood years. And I stayed there until I was 18 years old and went off to college. So, I think I had a quintessential Bermudian upbringing, though. Same food, all that stuff. My mom made sure that we felt Bermudian all the time. And I came back here often, to the point where I actually went to West End primary every single school break. There were no breaks in the Horton household. My mom was like, we're going to school. And I got friends here, childhood friends, and loved going to the beach and riding my bike. So same stuff.
Alrighty. Sounds. I like that you on school breaks you went straight to school in Bermuda. Sounds like you got a good bit of schooling during your childhood. Well, let's talk about diving. What a lot of people know your name from diving, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I remember many years ago, as we were talking about before we came on, I must have said something to you. I'm like, well, we got the rocks off of North Shore. I didn't even consider that Bermuda didn't have any pools, back then where you could go and do diving, right? But how did you get into diving?
So, you know what, it's kind of a funny story because my mother played international softball, as a lot of people know. So she was the shortstop for the Big Blue Machine. And I think she wanted to, I know she wanted to raise the next big thing in softball. So she got me a leather glove, an authentic leather glove. I was probably 3 or 4 years old, and she would take me out back and throw the ball at me. At which point we realized that it was hitting other parts of my body other than my glove. And I couldn't throw, I couldn't catch. I was not good at hitting the ball. So she was like, listen, I can't raise an unathletic child. So we got to find something you can do. So she put me in everything. I did gymnastics, I did swimming, figure skating because I was in Canada. I did football, volleyball, dance, diving. So it was just one of the many activities that my mom tried me out with when I was a kid.
So, I see in Bermuda, so many children are involved in so many things. They might do running, basketball, football,
Yep.
cricket.
I did all that too. Yep.
How did diving then stick out or stand out where that's the one that you chose to focus on?
So what's funny is, as I mentioned, I can't throw, catch anything with an extension of my body. So tennis didn't work, any of those things. So we ended up whittling it down to sports that didn't require a ball or a bat racket situation. So I ended up doing gymnastics and diving for a long time. I started gymnastics when I was 3. I started diving when I was 5. So going all the way up through till I was 12 when I retired from gymnastics. And the reason for that was that at that time I was a provincial level gymnast. So Ontario, top in Ontario. But for diving, I was a national level diver. And very, I had a gym coach who was fantastic and said, listen, you're very talented at this, but you're going to grow too tall. You're going to be too tall to be a gymnast. So, diving is going to be your best bet. So off we went. We committed to diving when I was 12 and never looked back.
Interesting. And I wanted to kind of say, was it because of your height? Because I
was like 4'8"
Mhm.
as a 12-year-old. So I was little, but when people are doing body assessments of kids, they can only project how tall you're going to be. And my mom's relatively tall. My father's side is very tall. So, they're relatively tall. So yeah, I think they just were like, you know what, kid? You're good, but we're going to be tall. And I'm tall for a diver. I was tall for a diver, and I was still short. I was 5'4" in college, so I didn't grow too much until after I quit diving.
So now you're like 6'5". Okay. Well, you interesting story how you got into diving and it became your focus at 12. But my first recollection of diving on an Olympic level was the 92 Olympics in Barcelona. That was the first time I really paid attention. And what got me into the Olympics that year was the Dream Team. I was big into basketball back then. And so obviously, not like today, you watched what came on. You just hoped the Dream Team came on at that time. And all of the divers, there were a lot of Asian divers, China, if I remember correctly. It must have been China. And the rest, from just white, from different countries and so on. Was it a challenge for a young Black girl to get into that space?
So if I can be very honest, Toronto is a just tossed salad of cultures and races and backgrounds. So as a kid, I don't think I really felt that, even though I was clearly the only Black kid in the pool. I don't know that it was difficult for me to enter into the space as a child. I didn't feel my Blackness as either, a hindrance or anything really. I was just a kid who liked to dive. So, when I think of my early examples of diving excellence, we had 2 Dominican men coaches in Canada, the Henderson brothers, Cesar and Fernando Henderson. Black men, and they were Olympians. And that was probably the first time I thought, wow, you know what? Not only can Black people dive, and we do dive, but we can really excel at this. And I mean, I had an Olympic dream early on. So yeah, I think it was basically that. I didn't really feel it until much later.
Interesting, interesting. And we'll get to that because, we have to go into it. What were some of the challenges that you faced along your journey and how did you overcome them? But before we even get there, a lot of young people right now in Bermuda in particular have so many opportunities. When I was young, I saw almost everyone in my age group played football or cricket, right? The young men. Today, we have so many young guys going to prep schools and getting, scholarship opportunities or joining academies. For diving, it's not something you think, or even golf, or, it's not something I think is in Bermuda's embedded in our culture to think of maybe going and getting a scholarship in this kind of thing. Speak to us about the journey through schooling, because Katura doesn't just become a diver and focus on diving at 12 and then end up somewhere. There's a story with that. Tell us the story about how it helped you. I spoke about you in bio. I shared that you're a hookem, you're a longhorn, right? I shared that you also have two master's degrees. Well, this is all a part of one journey. Speak to us about how you use diving. I always said when I coached in Bermuda, I went back to coach and I said, my job is not to prepare them to win the next FA Cup or league title, is so that they can use football so that they can get to places they want to be in life, not let football use them. But speak to us about that journey that diving led you.
I mean, if I can be honest, I think that girls in sport have a bit of there's a bit of a stigma sort of associated with girls in sport, that this is a hobby, this is not a career choice. But maybe it's because I came from a sporting background where my mother was wildly successful, my uncle Randy obviously a sportsman, and actually also my aunt Junie was a sports person. But I don't think I was ever not thinking of having a sporting career. So that was the A. The B is that my mother raised a student athlete. And that term means that student is first and athlete is second. So, I did have two jobs, and that was to get A's and to win competitions, go to practice and win competitions. So I think that for me, when I was not about to take a traditional route, and when my mother, I think, identified that she was at that point raising a talented teen, and it came time to think about university or colleges, we had to be very strategic with the ones that we selected. So, I come from basically a household where, we didn't come from money. So yeah, it would be great to go into a program that was going to give me everything. But, and there were several that recruited me and offered me full scholarships. But for us, and I say for us, my mother and I, we have had an Olympic dream, and we had a dream of collecting degrees. So, I had to pick a school that was A, gonna turn me into an Olympian, and B, going to put me on the path to achieving the academic excellence that was basically bred in me from young, from a family of educators. So Texas came up because at the time they were the #1 swimming and diving program in the nation. And they had one of the top diving coaches and Olympic gold medalist, Laura Wilkinson, was at Texas. So I immediately said, you know what, if they let me in, I'm going. And it was funny because I'm sitting there, I'm a 17-year-old, and I'm about to turn down Duke and Columbia. And those were just huge schools that were like, we really want you. But at that point in time, diving had to take a forefront. So I chose Texas, and it was literally one of the best decisions of my life. And I remember going there, and it was a huge recruiting class of divers. One of the biggest that Texas has had. We were 7 coming in, and I was probably second worst on the team going in. And that was intentional, because there's something that my mom always used to say, that was that you become good by surrounding yourself with people who do what you do, but you become great by surrounding yourself with people who do what you do better than you do it. And when I went to Texas, not being the best in the pool ensured that I was surrounded by people who knew that they were just gonna make it. So that environment of excellence bred in me not only the drive to get there, but also just work ethic, being around a team that was trying to go to the same place that I was. So I went to Texas on a book scholarship. They gave me $600 for books, and my mom rallied. She sent me to school, and I said to my coach one day, I said, "Listen, I'm going to need a scholarship." And he said, "You're going to need to perform. And if you perform, we can sort that out." So I ended up my sophomore year, the conference championship, Big 12, I ended up second on the platform, which is unheard of that early in a career. And I earned my scholarship, and the rest is history. So, I hope the lesson is that you got to go where people can make you incredible, rather than just following the money or, following whatever else. If your focus is sports or the Olympics or excellence in that way, you go where people can make you that way.
I love everything about that. That's incredible. That's incredible, folks. If you have any questions for Katura Horton-Perinchief, feel free to ask them. We have a question from Mark Arthur C. Phillips. He's asking, "What did the average day look like when you were training for the Olympics?"
Probably the same as any other day, because I was 21. It was my last year of college, so of university. So, we got up, we had morning practice at 5 a.m. And let me tell you, I was not a morning person before university. When they were like, you have to be in the pool at 5, I was like, 5 o'clock has an AM? Like, what? I don't. Where's that on the clock? So 5 a.m. morning practice, 8 a.m. class. We would have mandatory study hall, and then lunch, weights, afternoon practice, mandatory dining hall, rehab and physio, and then study hall at night and sleep. And, I think that was just you. I would just eat and breathe sports with people who were doing the same thing. So yeah, I don't think it was any different than any other day for me, that I was just training for the Olympics. I was a student athlete and going through the day-to-day of my life.
Interesting. And let's go back a bit. Let's speak about the challenges, because obviously no great story is without challenges. What are some of the challenges you faced along your journey, and how did you overcome them?
So I think the normal challenges were motivation, focus. And when I was a teen, just a lot of distractions: boys, the mall, friends, movies, parties, all the things that I wanted to do that my mom used to have to say, at, homework and diving first. So, having a parent who was so invested in my career and my excellence. And I mean, this is a woman who educated herself in every part of my sport. So, she would drive me. And then, I think that was probably the toughest, most challenging part. When I started seeing myself on the world stage and actually competing on the world stage, it turned into our dream instead of, her just taking me to diving. So I think that was probably the main challenge for me. The other challenge, though, which again, she dealt with before I was even cognizant of it, was being a little chocolate chip in a bowl of milk. I think it was a majority white sport, and it is, and to your point before, the main Asians that we did see were Chinese. So we didn't see too many others at the time. Now we've got Japan, we've got Malaysia, which is great. But back then, mainly the Chinese and white people. So, for me, I was thinking, people keep telling me I'm good at this, but the judging is not reflecting that I'm as good as people say. Like, what's going on here? And, it's my mom who said, you just need to stay the course. You just need to dive. The judging will come later when they get used to you. And basically that was it. And I've had several coaches in my corner who were phenomenal. And I remember one of them very colloquially saying to the judging panel after we were very frustrated with an outcome of a meet, he said, I need you guys to understand that the dives look just as good in black. And I heard it out of the corner of my ear, and I was like, is this what I'm going through right now? Because you're so focused on being an athlete and just executing dives. I don't have time to think of what people who are responsible for my success in a subjective sport are thinking about me personally, or my skin color, or where I'm coming from, or anything like that. So for me, I just didn't really think about it, but it was a challenge with respect to growing in the sport and getting into those big international meets.
Interesting you say that, because I often wonder how different it is in a subjective sport like this, where you're relying on judges versus someone who's running a race where you're either first or not, right?
You win or you don't. Yes.
Like how challenging is that mentally?
So I think for anybody, I mean, I had teammates who were like, "Oh, these judges don't like me," and we would always say that, but I now realize that some of that was for real for me, and they didn't like me for the strangest of reasons, and reasons that I couldn't control. So, yeah, when we talk about qualifying for the Olympics and qualifying for these major events, I did that despite the systemic racism that was built into that sport. And I won't affix that label racist to anybody. But what I will say is that when you're used to seeing a certain skin color or a certain body type flipping around, and you have a split second to make a decision on whether that dive is a 6 or if it's a 9, you kind of revert to what you're used to. So the fact that they didn't see people like me all the time, I think that probably weighed a little bit on it. But I will say that my first, which is so strange, but my first major taste of international success, I went to a meet. I was 14 years old. No, I was younger. I would have been maybe 12 or 13. Went to Sweden. And Sweden was hilarious because, they're blonde haired and blue eyed. So some of my teammates came in earlier, a day earlier. They were dark haired, red haired, but white people, white Canadians. And these people were like, my goodness, this is so different. So imagine the shock when I came in the next day and they were like, wow, this is crazy. The funniest thing, though, is I won all my events. And that was my first time getting that taste of international success. And shortly thereafter, I went to Cuba, where I was not the only Black diver, but I was the only Black female one. But I went there for a big international meet, and I medaled. And it was an incredible opportunity to really to see that, I was actually beating people who had never beaten in Canada before. So, that really made a difference to me and my confidence, knowing that there were judges out there who could judge the dive and not the person, if that makes sense.
I love that. I love that. And it's crazy because we still experience it in so many different ways today. And I know how passionate you are about changing things like that. Let's go back to the actual Olympics. So I don't know. I described you tonight and previously as someone forever etched in Olympic history. I use that term because there's never going to be another first black woman diver. Like, people, I need you to understand that there's never going to be another first, right? Um, that's so huge. But how does it, a young black girl born in Bermuda grow up to become the first black woman to participate in it? Like, walk us through the process of, you know, you get that call to participate. You're traveling to Greece. You spoke about your mother's support. What does that entire process look like? The realism that I am here, where I want it to be.
Yeah. See, you know what's so funny? I feel like you only see us at the Olympics, right? You only see us at the Pan Ams of the world. The journey itself is just so arduous, and I think, having people in your corner is literally the only important thing, because or else you go crazy, right? So for me, when I think about the role that my mother played throughout my career from childhood all the way through to the Olympics, it wasn't just instrumental, but it was vital, for my sanity, I'm a black child in the pool every day. Like, just the little things, like my mom being there to do my hair, was huge. So I think now, to be fair, I was 21. So for all intents and purposes, I'm still a kid. So I need that guidance. And it was almost complete heartache, because the way that people qualify for the Olympics in diving is there's a ranking system. So there are a series of meets. I was in Rome. I was in gosh, China. I was all over the show trying to get a ranking place. They were only taking top 35, period, on the planet. So out of these hundreds of people who want to dive, I've got to be top 35, and I've got to be top 35 by the World Cup, which was February of the Olympic year, so February of 2004. So we're going to Canada Cup. We're in Fort Lauderdale. I'm everywhere that I can go to get a ranking, to get points. And I'm close, but I'm not there. The good thing is that, the big countries, so China gets their 2 people in. They can't take 3, they can't take 5, because let's be honest, if we had a Chinese Olympics, the top 50 in the world would be Chinese. But so China had 2, the US had 2, Canada 2, etc. So when you start looking at the competitive nature of jockeying for spots, that was, to have a Bermudian who didn't have a judge on the panel, didn't have the historical sort of power behind a country name, and having Bermuda on my chest didn't mean anything to these people. So it was really just sort of a watershed moment that could even be possible in a subjective sport. So that journey, I kind of don't know how it happened. I know how, but it's really sort of miraculous.
It really is incredible. Honestly, I'm in awe of the journey myself, and I only know what you're telling me of it. Any questions in the audience? Again, please feel free to send any questions you have for Katura through. We have Nachika Trot. She's saying, how important is the diet for athletics? How can we demonstrate to parents the importance of such in student development?
Yeah. So again, I hate to harp on my mom, but she planned everything. She was raising an elite athlete. So, and you mentioned that I'm a cupcake connoisseur, which I am. I'm an enthusiast. However, I did not have my first cupcake until I was an adult. So, I did not have my mom would make granola and trail mix, and that would be, I had strawberries or apples as dessert. So, she ensured that nutrition, that sports psychology, that all of those things were quintessential parts of my day. Um, I didn't know what McDonald's tasted like. I didn't like pizza until I was 15. So there are things that it is very important. So, taking care of your young body will serve you into adulthood. You cannot be the best athlete you could be without a sound nutrition base.
Interesting, and so true, so true. I want to. We have to go a bit deep on your mom, and I know everything keeps going back to her, but you have a very special relationship with your mother.
Mhm.
How important is it to have a supportive parent or guardian on a journey like this?
It's everything. I don't, I had incredible coaches, but she was coach number one, teacher number one. So, and I mean, let's keep in mind, my mother's an educator, a mathematics educator. So it was important that we go and get degrees. That's what she wanted. But more than anything, at that point in my life, knowing that diving was never going to last forever, that, um, the world champion in diving is 14 years old. So it's a small window there. She went all in. And, I say that she knew everything there was to know about softball. So my mother made it her business to take coaching courses for diving, take judging courses for diving. My mother became an international judge of diving, and she knew every technical piece of my craft in order to assist me. So that's why she could look and say, don't worry about it. Your dive was an 8. I know you've gotten 6s, but we're going to keep going. And, that was the difference. So there is nobody else who will be in your corner like your parents. They love you, they want the best for you, and at the end of the day, it is also their journey because your success is theirs.
Mm. Yeah, incredible, folks. It's incredible. Power Girl Trina says, I'm in awe too. Michelle Simmons asking, did you notice if there was greater diversity among the Olympic judges in diving at the 2020 Olympics? And on the back of that, have you noticed more diversity over the years as it relates to not just the competitors, but the judges and those behind the scenes?
So I think that judging and diving is where we're still lacking quite a bit. And truthfully, it is a true honor to sit on a judging panel and have a Black diver look over and see me on a panel, because that's a privilege that I never had as a kid. I believe that in the age of diversity, equity, and inclusion, I think people are trying. But we have quite a ways to go. So yes, there are more Black divers. There are more Black female divers, which is, I mean, I'm so excited to see that. But we are still lacking in the judging realm. So it's and like I said, representation matters there too, because something that I see as a judge when I see a dive on a Black diver may be very different than something that someone else will see. So um, I hope for my sport that we get better representation on the judges panels.
Indeed, indeed. Well, I remember some years ago, I was part of a coaching course with the Bermuda Football Association. And one of the things that was talked about is trying to get more young people, young Bermudians, maybe people who were not as interested in playing the game, to become referees of the game. And you've seen growth in a lot of locals, men and women, become international officials, referees in the game. Now, you've started your own diving camp. What inspired you to start it? And obviously, not everyone's going to be a top diver, but you spoke about getting more Black judges. Who knows? They can learn diving and become that judge. But what inspired you to start it, and what is your hope for young people who participate?
Yeah, so Star Diving Summer Camp started in 2014, and it was the year after the government built the pool at the NSC. And I just remember that I had a Canadian childhood because Bermuda didn't have a pool. That's what happened. When I became excellent at diving, my family made a directed choice to stay there and hone that talent and sort of guide that career. The fact that these kids have this here is I'm just so happy for them. So it was an absolute honor to bring the sport that raised me to these kids. And I have been very intentional with my recruitment. If you ever go to Star Diving and see us in action, you will see a gorgeous rainbow of kids of all colors and all backgrounds and all everything. And it's absolutely one of the most incredible things I've ever been a part of. And I just hope that what they gain from that is that you can literally fly. You can literally do anything that you need to do if you love it enough. And, over the past, 9 years, seems so, so 9 years, we've seen over 640 kids learn to dive. And for Bermuda, I think it's important anyway, because we grew up diving off the rocks, but to know that this could be a career choice, that this could lead to a scholarship, that this could lead to a judging career or a coaching career. I mean, it warms my heart.
Mhm. How far away do you think we are from? Let's think about it. Young girls, when I was growing up, I don't know if it's still the exact same way, but it was gymnastics, dance, ballet, netball, among other things, right? How far are we? And because the pool's outdoors, I'm guessing it's times of the year matter, right? In Bermuda.
Yes.
But
That's probably the only issue that we're going to have. So I can't run a year-round program. And I mean, like I said, when I was 12, by the time I was 12, I was putting easily 35 hours in at the pool a week. So, there's no time to be taking off the majority of the year because it's going to rain or be cold or anything like that. So it is a challenge. But the talent and even the dedication of some of these camp kids, I mean, they could do it if they had a program. They're pretty fantastic.
Got to get a program, folks. Got to get that program. Let's switch gears a bit. Over the last few years, there's been a lot of things happening in the world. LeBron James was told by Laura Ingham to shut up and dribble. Right now there's a World Cup going on in Qatar, and you have people saying, "Oh, why are politics always involved in sport? Let them just play the game." When introducing you, I mentioned that you are an activist, right? Why is it so necessary for people like yourself to use your platform to bring attention to issues of the day?
Because we're human and because we live in this world with people who are different from us, who are from different places, who believe different things. And humanity should be at the just crux of everything that we do. Telling an athlete who has a who has a platform to shut up and dribble is perhaps the most detrimental thing that you can do to someone's influence. If there's anybody who can listen to or learn from our life experiences as international athletes many of us have been to a million different countries and, just sort of immersed ourselves in so many different cultures. to not be able to capitalize on that lived experience is ignorant and it's short-sighted. So it is important to me that I convey, not just to young Bermudians, but to everybody who will listen, my life experience. And, I think it's a bit of a responsibility for those of us who have been given so much over the years in terms of exposure and platform.
Yeah, indeed. And honestly, you're doing it. You're in Bermuda. You're there trying to give young people something that you didn't have to experience. You're also utilizing your platform through activism to help change things that you see are issues in Bermuda. But we couldn't have a conversation without saying you're from a very political family. The
Both sides.
Perinchief side, the Horton side. Will we ever see Katura Horton-Perinchief get involved in the front line politically? Or, you're an activist, and some activists make that transition.
You know what I have learned through all my years of living in Jamel, I'm getting old, almost 4 decades old. So I feel like I can talk on this. I really wish for not only our country, but the globe, that more people in power would do more good, and also that more good people would get into positions of power. So I 100% am not ruling it out. I think at this point, however, there are other ways for me to contribute. I do that fervently and often and loudly. But no, I have not written that off. Right now, though, I feel like we're kind of in a trash heap of despair politically, aren't we? Like, ooh, it's tough out there. It's cutthroat. So I think doing the work on the ground and behind the scenes is what is driving me, and is a little bit more important for me to see results from that work than being a minister of something.
All righty, makes sense. Look, there's so many young people with dreams, but some of them lack funding, support, guidance, and even resources. What advice would you give someone facing any of these things today?
I think that I shared my story of not having a whole bunch. I think that if you want something badly enough, it will materialize. And I know that sounds a little bit, I don't know, pie in the sky, but I'm coming from a place of a 5-year-old who had a dream that was absolutely, for all intents and purposes, unattainable. And it was attained. So, staying the course is important. Being able to keep the end in view, as the Barclay Institute so fervently tells us to do, respecte finem. And also, there's something I tell my camp kids, that they need to choose to be brave on a daily basis, because there are people who are going to step all over those dreams, but they have to be brave enough to carry those out. So I always tell them that there's no such thing as brave people, just regular people who make brave choices. So being brave is a choice that you can wake up every single morning and make. And if you make that choice to be brave and to follow those dreams, it will change your life in ways unimaginable. And that's not just in sport, that's in life. So that would be my advice.
Indeed, indeed. And, before we wrap it up, what will it take for Bermuda? We've had a great recent Olympics, our first gold medal with Dame Flora Duffy. What will it take for us to, obviously understanding our size, get more people on that level, get more people as participants? Are we on the right track, or is there something missing?
So I think we're on the right track. When you think of the fact that let's be clear here. Participation is not now, nor will it ever be the goal, right? The goal is to win, right? To get a medal or to final, or at least to get personal bests on the world stage. That's what we want. And it's something that I believe all of our athletes who stay the course have the potential to do. Obviously, there's always a funding issue when it comes to athletics, but I mean, it is what it is. Everybody needs a little money, a little bit of help. And I think that, to be fair, the government has been doing a better job at that. International organizations have seen the need for infusing our organizations with more money. But where Bermuda, I think, shines is that we have a highly motivated group of athletes. I know that we come under fire for being lazy or unfocused. That is not my experience with Bermuda or Bermudians. I mean, we had this is the first time for a long time that we've had Commonwealth medals, and not just one, two. We had two Commonwealth medals. So Flora got one and Jamel Hardtman. So to have that coming out of tiny Bermuda, I think we just have to really embrace the fact that we are always cutting these diamonds out of stone, out of volcanic rock, if you will. So, I have the highest respect for people who have chosen this path, and I think we'll see stars for many, many years to come.
All righty. And I'm ready to cheer them on like many others. We're going to wrap it up. And as we do on this show, every conversation, we play a short game called, well, today it's going to be 1 for 1. So what will happen is I'll mention one word or phrase, and you have to describe what it means to you in one word. All right?
Okay.
All righty. Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, here we go. I'm going to hit my timer so I don't keep going beyond 20 seconds. All right, first word. Family.
Mom.
Sports.
Love.
Hot match.
Somerset.
Bermuda.
Love again.
All right, she is done. That word love. Loves her Bermuda. And family, mother. Love it, love it, love it. And I just want to give a shout out before we let you go. That, I appreciate your mom for so many reasons. She's been a guest on the Daily Hour with us. And, I think more moms like her, we'd have an amazing population of people. So I just want to send love to your mom, your family, and you. Thank you so much for doing this. Really, really, really appreciate you having this conversation. And in the future, when you are on the front line, when you choose to make that line politically, please don't forget us. But I just want to go through some comments before you head out. We've had Nakia Thompson, says inspiration she is, all around wonderful human being. Valeria Fazio says, thank you, Katura, for bringing me to your beautiful island year after year, making me feel like a local and allowing me to coach alongside your excellence. Liana Nanang says, thank you for having the great, the magnificent, the one and only Katura. So thank you, Katura. And we'll definitely be in touch.
Thank you.
All right, Katura Horton-Perinchief, folks, if you appreciated that conversation, please give us a love. Hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe and make sure that you hit the notifications button. But please share this conversation as well. We want to make sure that people get to hear her story. We know her name. Some of us know what she's known for, but to actually hear her share her story. I mean, I lost my mom earlier this year, and to hear her speak of her relationship with her mom, it just warms my heart. So please share the conversation, folks. If you appreciated the conversation with Katura Horton-Perinchief, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. And I just want to say thank you for engaging on Jamel Hardtman Unscripted. These conversations are meant to educate, inspire, and motivate us through real-life personal experiences and stories from people in our community. Hopefully, the more we learn about one another, the more we'll love and respect one another, because there's more to each of us than what many see. Thanks again to Katura Horton-Perinchief, and thank you to all of you for tuning in to this conversation of Jamel Hardtman Unscripted. If all goes well, I'll see you again very soon. Until then, I'm out.